Awesome. Great. Hi, my name is Andres from Geeks of Color. Xolo, nice to meet you, man.
Hey Andres, pleasure to meet you, bro. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for taking the time, bro.
of course, man. Yeah, thank you. The first thing I got to tell you, man, is obviously congrats on Blue Beetle. Congrats on being Jaime. I know this was a big thing for me. I've always wanted to see this character on the big screen, and it meant a lot to finally see this character in all his
Whoa,
glory. So I appreciate your
sick.
performance, man. It was amazing.
I appreciate that. I hope it was I thank you for the kind words, man. I appreciate it.
Of course, yeah, I really do mean that. I've always wanted to see this character, and it really did mean a lot. Something I wanted to talk about a little bit was I know it must have been frustrating to have this film premiere during the strike. This was something that was brought up a little bit, but I went back and rewatched the film, and it's interesting how the themes of the film really do deal with fighting against this kind of corporate capitalistic structures and how these kind of corporations usually don't care or don't value the people at the bottom. And I kind of want to get your perspective as far as, besides the obvious, why did you feel like it was important, or why do you feel like it's important to support these kind of movements and strikes and workers' rights kind of organizations?
Well, look, it, with this project, you brought up a whole bunch of great things, but what I really learned getting to film my first movie is, there are so many people that work on this. It's one thing to have, you know, a couple. Yeah. That's all I can say is that the that it's corporate greed that got us in the place that we're in, and you know, I'm honored to be a part of this part in history. Like it's so cool that I'm gonna get to down the years from now say like, this was a really big moment in history, and hopefully we did the right thing, and I I'm a firm believer of that, and because I've made so many great relationships with my fellow sound engineers and with the costumers and with people all along the way, like those people need to be like fed, and they need to have roofs over their heads, and so for those reasons it didn't feel frustrating, but at the same time nobody prepared me for that. I was prepared, to have the movie go crazy and it for be the biggest thing in my life. Nobody, sat down and said, this is how to handle it now that none of that's happening, right? But I gotta say, even with all of that, the greatest thing was getting to sit in the theater next to kids that looked like me when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, and getting to see them see their families on the screen. And like, if you take it back to the Egyptian times, and the beetle has been significant of turning shit into gold. So like I feel like it's not a story that's new to us. Like I'm not I feel familiar with it and so honored that we get to bring it on the biggest stage, and I have a strong feeling that this movie is larger than the release date anyways. Like we're gonna get to look 10, 15 years and be like, this was a really awesome, this is history that Angel made. This was, this director changed the world in this moment.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I do feel like that kind of representation and that kind of power of seeing this version or this character on screen really does mean a lot. And kind of going off that, I know a lot has been talked about when it comes to Latino representation and seeing more Latinos on screen. I know I've read a couple reports in the past talking about how we're still the least represented group, even though we
I
represent
saw
the
that those
largest
articles recently,
group.
right? That said,
Yeah,
it's still shit.
yeah. it's
Yeah.
it, it's tough because we're the largest group that goes out to watch movies. That's the largest percentage, and yet we're the least represented in these major films. Do you feel like this right here, Blue Beetle, is a step in that right direction? And what more can be done, and what more can be said? I guess because it's such a frustrating point in history that we're currently in.
You know, I'm I'm not too I know that the youth of this generation, it's the diversity isn't weird to them. That they're growing up on TikTok and YouTube and everywhere seeing everybody. It's only the people that need to be cycled out that don't understand it, right? So like I think that um you know it has could you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, what do you feel can be changed to change this whole idea of not representing us enough? And do you feel like Blue Beetle is a step in that change?
Blue Beetle is a step in that direction on a lot of fronts. On the front that I believe that, you know, we should be given the chance to tell our own stories. And, you know, that doesn't mean giving us the, you know, the brown budget or the this, you know, our stories are general market, you know, there's there's a lot of reversing that needs to be done, right? This industry was built to tell us that this is beautiful and this is not, and this is what makes money and this isn't. But culture and the way that we've passed down ancestry over the generations, you can't blend those two things in. So once we start getting more people who are making the decisions, more people who are writing the movies, directing the movies, working in the costume department, working in sound, who are representative of those stories that we're trying to tell, that's when the change is going to be made. And it's no wonder that this shit is hitting the fan right now, because the people who make the decisions on that don't see those people.
Yeah.
And don't. So, you know, I think that it's going to be something, the next steps are going to be really important, but it's so, you know, it's one of those things that this movie, it's apparent that this movie resembles more than, you know, just the superhero, right? And I'm so glad for that.
Absolutely. And I feel like that kind of leads to my other question as far as the actual idea of representing Latinos on screen is something that's always been a difficult topic, because I know a lot of Latinos have a lot of perspectives.
Yeah.
As far as some people want very little Spanish, some want more Spanish. How did you guys find that balance of showcasing a real Latino household and how that looks like?
I think what we just had to remember is that it's not a monolith. There is no one story, right? I feel so heartbroken when I see stories like Latino stories being told and having our own brothers and sisters tear it down because it's not specific to what their, you know, experiences are. But we have to build up to that. And what was so, and it was so exciting about, you know, this movie was that, yes, we got to meet Jaime and see what this Chicano young man's story is and how his life is. But then you see his mother and his father and his uncle and everyone around him. And that, to get to make all of those other characters three-dimensional, really, I think helped so much in understanding. Shit, man, I grew up thinking like Speedy Gonzalez, Narcos, these types of things were what my culture amounted to. And I grew up in Los Angeles. I could see the Hollywood sign, and Hollywood was telling me that my culture was this, this, and that. To have a director who knew that that wasn't the case and who had a story that he had to tell, there's nothing like it. And then I think that's when the changes are going to get made. The changes can't help but get made. And we see it when the movie comes out, because people are like, oh shit, my family does that. And I'm here for that, for not just Latinos, for everyone. Yeah. That's what people need to understand, is that it starts with this, but then, you know, our favorite Muslim superhero, our favorite XYZ, like that's what we need to understand, is that, you know, when I go out to watch Shang-Chi, I want to support Shang-Chi, but it's, you know, we got to be there for everyone.
Absolutely. And I do feel like you guys just nailed that balance. I thought it was incredible how you guys were able to balance that perspective on the Latino household. But the last thing, yeah, Angel is incredible. Last thing I want to say is, do you have a favorite song in the movie soundtrack? And if you,
I mean, Calle 13 wrote, I mean, that joint right there. Oh my gosh. That's my favorite, of course.
Would you add one for the sequel, or if there's one like Latino banger that you had to add for the sequel, which one would it be?
I think for the second one there needs to be some reggaeton in there. I think we need to have our you know, I don't know, Angeles Boricua. We need some I don't know, if only there was a Boricua, you know, reggaeton artist that could make a song for the movie. I don't know, but
yeah, out of all the ones that we have.
Right.
I appreciate your time, man.
Hey, I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it, bro.
much for this. And honestly, it means a lot. I really do mean that. Blue Beetle's always been a character that I followed for years. Seeing the character of Jaime just finally be on the big screen is something I've always asked for and I've always wanted. So seeing you do it and do such an amazing job and so much charisma and hope inside this character really did mean a lot. So thank you, man.
I appreciate that, bro. Thank you. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, man. All right, man. Have a good day.
Have a good one.